The fine folks of the Locked On Big Ten squad are going to attempt and probably fail to pick apart my Big Ten power rankings. We've got Indiana's win total on tap. You know today's going to be fun.
You're talking ball with the Big Ten squad, sponsored by Game Time. From USC to Ohio State, from Michigan to Oregon, from Nebraska to Washington, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big Ten weekend. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up, you're part of the Big Ten squad.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the Locked On Big Ten Squad. I'm Spencer McLaughlin, your host. Mark Culkin of Locked On USC is here with Jacob Goins. Locked On Hoosiers, Craig Sheeman, Indiana guy of Locked On Big Ten. Zach Seiko, Locked On Nittany Lions. Roman Tomashoff, Locked On Huskies. And boom, right on time is Jay Stevens of Locked On Buckeyes. What an entrance. Oh my goodness. Absolutely electric. I swear we did not plan any of that. We do have a great show planned out for today. So in this first segment, this is really going to be a win-win for me because I'll either get to push back on why you guys are wrong, or you're just going to have to agree with me, and that's a win for me going in either direction. Goins is already counting down the minutes until we get to Indiana later in today's show. But I have compiled my Big Ten power rankings going into the season, and I'm sure we'll start with the top six. Is everybody good with that? Kind of the top third of this massive 18-team conference. All right, top six.
I mean, you're running the show, so just tell us what. We figured you would have had a plan for this, but here we are.
We don't want to debate Maryland to start.
Maryland
I can tell you
is
where Purdue is going to be.
Those two teams are low on my list.
Northwestern. We didn't want to start with them.
They are low. No, here's where we'll start. You're gonna love this, Seiko. Yes, Mark.
Just get rid of the bottom six. These teams are not in contention.
Well, yeah, but then we'd be leaving out UCLA, and then we can't talk about Nico. And SEO dictates we have to talk about Nico.
That's true.
Okay, top six in the Big Ten in order. And Seiko gets to respond first for no particular reason. Here we go. Penn State number 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, Illinois 4, Indiana 5, Michigan 6. Seiko, go ahead. Where am I wrong?
I don't think you are. All I heard is Penn State was number 1. I'm good with that. It's definitely, your top three across the board. I think most people are going to see this as either Penn State or Ohio State number 1. Oregon's going to be third, because I'm sure if you ask Jay, he's going to say you're wrong. The Buckeyes are 1, Penn State's 2, Oregon's 3, and some sort of. Oh, okay. Wow.
Sego. This is the guy who came on my show and picked Ohio State to lose to Oregon in a game they led by 34 points. He has been scarred many a times, is what I'm saying. Many times.
Trust issues at this point in time. Penn State being the number 1 team is justified. Whether or not you agree with Spencer, it is justified because they bring back a veteran quarterback, 2, not 1, but 2 veteran running backs, 80% of the starting offensive line, star defensive end, star defensive tackle, star safety, and then there's going to be some new faces of the offense and defense that will emerge. Oh, and they added 3 veteran playmakers through the transfer portal at the biggest position of weakness, wide receiver. 3, a trio of senior veterans that are going to be pretty helpful in this offense, but this is going to be a run-first, run-heavy team. So all Drew Aller and those 3 transfer wide receivers have to do is not make mistakes.
Which historically they've never done that before, of course. Jay, Ohio State at 2. Any objection there?
Not really. No, I think that's actually a fair place to put them. Seiko, the reason why I have Ohio State 2 and Penn State 1 is due to what Penn State's bringing back and what Ohio State is trying to figure out right now. Ohio State on defense, they lost 8 guys to the draft. That's great. But you don't really know who's going to be filling in the holes. You may know their name. You're not sure how well they'll play. And so I get it. I am comfortable with Ohio State being here at number 2. Spencer, I was ready to come on here and go off on you, but I can't do it right now.
Oh, this is sweet music to my ears. I needed this pick me up. I've had a long
coordinator.
I've had a long day at work. This is great. Would anyone like to push back on that top 6? I'll reiterate again: Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and any non-takers for that top 6.
I missed you say Illinois. That's really upsetting. I wrote down the top 5. I missed you say Illinois and was really excited about Indiana being number 4, which I'm still okay with them being in the top 5. I will say that I just think Indiana is better than Illinois. I think they have a better season than Illinois. I'm on the record saying that, and I am dying on that hill.
Well, Craig, you look like you've been itching to get in. When Seiko was talking, you look like someone holding your breath while your mother-in-law was speaking. Go ahead.
Ooh. Flashback. Yeah. So I can't quarrel with your top 3. However, look, the beauty of Illinois and Indiana is that'll sort itself out because they play each other pretty early in the season on September 20th. So my question becomes, where do we put Michigan? 6th? Are they 4th? What's the learning curve for Bryce Underwood? And, is he lights out all season long? Is he mediocre in the beginning as he tries to figure it out? So, Michigan could move as high as 4 on this list, or maybe they're appropriately placed at 6. And I want to hear from Mark because I'm sure he thinks the Trojans should be on this list as well.
Again, I asked what went into the thought process of these power rankings because I'm thinking you have to at least look back at how the team performed in their last game. And Oregon at number 3 seems a little bit high, especially considering their new, presumptive starting quarterback has a touchdown to interception ratio of 11-9. So, yeah, you're bringing in a lot of talent, or you have a lot of talent returning, but who's your quarterback? All I remember is what Ohio State did you in your last game. Why does that? Go ahead.
I didn't know that the last game of the season was defining what happens in a team's next season. If that's so, where should Indiana be? Last?
If Jay is going to be cool,
thanks.
At number 2, because you know a lot of names, but you don't know what you're actually returning until you see it in action. Why can't we say the same thing about number 3 Oregon?
Right? I think I think it's the reason that I have them both behind Penn State, whereas most places probably would want to put Penn State behind them all. Also, to answer your direct question, Mark, about what went into my making of these metrics, I have been talking about all of these teams at some point in time and monitoring their off seasons rather closely on Locked On College Football. Roman has not yet had a chance to jump in. I want to be fair and equitable as neutral arbiter of all things college football over here. Roman,
by the way, I saw that.
You saw what?
I saw his golf clap. He was supporting what I was saying.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway.
Yeah, I certainly have my questions about Dante Moore, and maybe, especially this flag behind me here has nothing to do with it. Maybe I'd flip Oregon and Illinois when we talk about returning production and all those different things. That's something I would just throw out there because the main gripe is I want to go back to something Craig said, where Craig mentioned, what if Bryce Underwood is mediocre through the first couple of weeks of the season and you drop a game that you shouldn't? That's something that is really just giving me pause when I think about Michigan this season. Is I'd never be comfortable throwing out a true freshman starter in week 1. And great, you have some runway to figure it out in the non-conference slate. But that's just something I will always just be a little bit reserved by, is especially placing somebody that high in the top third of what really could be a really deep conference this year.
Craig, any additional thoughts in there?
I think that's spot on. I think that's a pretty good take right there, especially the part we said. I agree with what Craig said earlier. I thought that was pretty good. I want to know what Mark's drinking in that giant bottle of his. That looked pretty good too.
Pac-12 juice.
Is it the audacity of this guy to bring that back? RIP, pour one out. But I mean, goodness gracious, every single week.
Hey, they got Texas State. They're on the comeback.
That's true. That's true. They're getting into the Lone Star State there. Look out for the Pac State, as some have referred to it as. We are going to refer to the rest of the show as still to come, because indeed it is, and it's going to be really fun. We've got the next 6 teams in my Big Ten power rankings, and any disagreement, where will Washington fall? They definitely won't be last. No, they're 17th. No, they're not 17th. They're 16th. So that and Indiana's win total coming up next on the Big Ten Squad. First, this episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? And well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Do you have that one financial goal you've been wanting to reach for a while? Maybe cut back on your spending, maybe save a little bit more, whatever it is. Monarch Money is here to help you get serious about it. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Check them out at monarchmoney.com. So after basically universal agreement that I nailed the top 6 in the Big Ten power rankings, we'll proceed with the next crop of teams. And Mark, I do factor in head-to-head matchups from last year, unless there has been like a significant undertaking in one side or both sides with the rosters. It's why Ohio State and Oregon both beat Penn State last year, but Oregon and Ohio State lost so much. Penn State brings so much back. They should be viewed as a top team in the Big Ten in my view. So with Michigan at number 6, next crop, Iowa, Minnesota, USC. Sorry, Marcus, the head-to-head difference. Washington, Nebraska, Michigan State.
Well, if it's the head-to-head difference, then Washington should be above USC.
Yeah, but there are other circumstances in there.
Unless it fits his argument. He forgot to add that.
You know what? That's my bad. I did forget that.
Okay, hold on. I'm reading them one more time. Iowa at 7, then Minnesota, USC, Washington, Nebraska, Michigan State. I just want the fans to understand this, that we did not receive these beforehand. If you can't tell. So
it's called live reactions. We're taping this ahead of time. We want to give the fans an authentic viewing and listening experience. Jacob, try to keep up.
I'm not good enough to react to 8 teams at a time. I'm not good enough.
Spencer's the most authentic person here.
Well, we all know that is just false, but we wish it was true, of course. So, Mark, I'll start with you. If you were making your Big Ten power rank, well, okay, I'm presuming Mark would care to learn anything about another team in the Big Ten, and that is asking a lot. But hypothetically, Mark, where do you think USC should be?
5.
5. So you would put them ahead of Illinois.
Absolutely.
And USC Illinois, underrated, great game in college football this year. You would put them ahead of Indiana and Michigan.
Yes.
You may lay out your argument now, and then Jacob will push back.
Since we don't know what's going on.
So I'm thinking back to last year and the games USC lost, those head-to-head matchups, which, by the way, USC doesn't play Minnesota this year. So I don't know how that comes into play this year. You brought up another team that USC lost to head-to-head that they don't play this year, that you have ahead of them. So I'm just trying to follow your rules here. I think back to how USC played last year and the games they lost on the road, how close they were and how much they improved on defense. And I think, pretty good chance USC's defense is going to be as good, if not better, than last year. I'm going to assume USC bounces back a little bit on offense. So you combine all that, I'm thinking, because the team is, besides Penn State, who returns basically everybody on their roster, everybody else is right here. What's the difference between USC and Oregon?
Oregon's off a season where they just won a Big Ten championship and do indeed have plenty of those pieces back. The staff has proven that they can go and win this conference championship.
Oregon
That's all.
is coming off a game that they just got taken behind the woodshed in their biggest game of last year.
And I have them behind that particular team in my rankings for that reason.
With a quarterback that's got a touchdown to interception ratio of 11-9, wide receivers that you're unsure about, an offensive line that you're unsure about.
I'm not unsure about anything.
You were counting on Evan Stewart this year. You're not anymore.
That is true. That is true. I do love the talent in that room, though.
You're kind of in a flux, and you're relying on your defense. The defense that got its butt whooped last year. So again, what is the significant difference
By the national champions, you leave that part out. You act like it was on a weekly basis, but it was in one particular game against the eventual national champions.
Going back to what Jay said in the first segment, you know the names, you don't know what you're getting in production. So Ohio State's getting, well, they're Ohio State, so they're going to be good. That's what you're ranking them on right now.
Well, if you came into that, if you came in with that approach for Ohio State in the last 10 years, when would you have been wrong?
Until we actually see it. They're starting a new quarterback. They're starting 8 new guys on defense. They've got a lot to prove.
Yeah.
The number 2 because they played in the national championship game. I get that. But the difference between where you have USC and all those teams above them is negligible for the reasons I just brought up. You don't know anything about anybody's quarterback or what they're going to do because of all these new players they're going to be playing. Michigan.
But Mark, you used a term there that I wanted to highlight, in particularly to USC, is until you see it. What has USC shown us that they should be a top 5 anything other?
I talked about their improvement on defense, which was significant, a 10-point improvement, and their losses on their road.
Until we see it, we can't believe it. I don't believe it.
Great. Don't believe it. But I'm pointing out what is the difference. And that's really the argument we're having here. You know, Spencer went on this, this is my list, and it's right because I follow college football. Well, really?
How dare you, Spencer?
I know. The audacity.
If I made a list, it would be right because I made it.
College football, and we laugh at their power ranking.
I just think there's 6 or 7 teams in the Big Ten that return more starting production from last year to this year than USC does. And what has USC or Lincoln Riley shown that they should have any sort of hype or expectations going into 2025 until they prove it on the field?
Let me ask you this. Penn State brought in 3 wide receivers to shore things up. Would you take their 3 transfers over Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane?
I'd take their offense over yours, absolutely.
That's not the question I asked you.
That's included in that. Yes, no, I would. I would take them. Yes, I would.
We're talking about roster personnel returning.
Yes, I would take them.
You just don't plug in. It doesn't work that well. It's not a video game, okay?
I would take them to answer your question.
So that's the answer. Yes, you would take 3 transfers coming into a new system over wide receivers who are pretty damn good, who have been in the system now going on their second, third year.
Because of the system, yes, I would.
Carry on your conversation, gentlemen.
Okay. By the way, Mark, on system, can you name the only offensive system in college football to produce back-to-back Heisman Trophy finalists at quarterback? I can.
The baby's first offense in Oregon.
I know of one.
For that one.
Yeah. Sorry, Roman. What was the score of that game at Austin last year? Can you refresh my memory?
I'm getting closer to bingo. Thank you very much for that.
I don't remember. I gotta
send everybody.
Right. We can only bring up games in which Washington has won. Of course, that is the case. Roman, would you like to make a case for Washington to be higher on this list, or do you think I have?
Would.
Okay, go for it. By all means.
I think that Washington should be above every team on this list that's not Iowa. I think that they've made
in the second tier, you mean, which just to remind everyone is Iowa, Minnesota, USC.
Iowa.
Boy, Trent is not going to be happy.
Mark Gronowski, the savior of Iowa.
No, I do. I think Washington has made all the necessary improvements on defense. You go out and you add 6 guys to your front 7 through the transfer portal. You go and get the best cornerback in the country out of the transfer portal in Takario Davis as well. I think you've made significant improvements on that side of the ball. You've shored up the offensive line. You're returning 2 Phil Steele All-Americans on the offensive side and Jonah Coleman and Denzel Boston. And then you have a quarterback who proved last season that he is ready to make the leap and be a starter full time. Yeah, he lost both his starts, but if you watch those games, you would say that kid, to quote a good friend of mine, Christian Capel, is an obvious star and is ready to make the leap and take a step forward in an offense that is pretty well suited for his skill set.
That was a pretty good case. That was nice and concise. That was well thought out. That was really good from Roman. You've come a long way. You've come so very, very far.
What an honor.
Okay, bottom row, wrap this particular conversation, which has just been so much fun. And then we will get to the real fun part of today's show. Jay, you may start. Do you think any of these teams should be swapped with others in tier 2?
I won't go crazy with this, but I think Michigan State will not be 12. I have a hard time putting them at 12 because part of me believes this is the year that they start to move up the Big Ten. Wouldn't definitely be in the top 6, but I think them in Nebraska and Washington will probably be pretty close with how I think that Michigan State will be better in 2025.
Craig?
I don't know what it is about me and Roman today, but we are locked in together. I would put Washington way higher on this list. Repeatedly throughout the summer on Locked On Big Ten, I have talked about I think Washington's my sleeper team. I think Damon Williams Jr. is my sleeper superstar who's going to break out this year. Every time I watched that kid play last year, I'm like, why is he splitting time with quarterback? Why is he not starting? I think he's a star. They got the solid running game with Coleman and a good receiver at Boston. I would put Washington higher on this list, maybe as high as 7th to start this list.
One thing I forgot to mention earlier when we were discussing Bryce Underwood in Michigan and how big the adjustment process will be, I'm sure there will be a big adjustment for him throwing 12 passes per game. That will be pretty be pretty sizable. He'll have to be good on those 12 passes.
He said this week they've added pages to the playbook. They're going to air it out. It's the air raid.
So is that 12 to 15?
Yeah. what are we talking about here?
Well, you guys didn't see that highlight from the spring game? Like, oh, watch out for Bryce Underwood. And it was like a double verse trick play. Yeah. Like, terrifying.
Who will see it coming?
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Seiko. Take your final shot at my Big Ten power rankings as everybody else so rudely has.
There's not a lot that separates, I think, after you have Oregon and Illinois. 5 and 6 are debatable. You could put Indiana there. You could put USC there. I think Michigan maybe is outside because I think maybe they're 7th, and you could make that case for a USC, but you could also make that case for Washington as well. What does Washington have offensively that USC may not? A breakout star at quarterback potentially. Washington's running back is better, and Denzel Boston is really good. Despite Mark, I will give you the credence there that I do like Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane a lot. If they were Penn State's wide receivers, they would go absolutely insane. But I agreed with Jacob that the system is better. But those individual wide receivers are better than what Penn State has versus its individual wide receivers. But system does help. So 5 through 8 are very debatable. If you said, hey, Indiana, USC are 5 and 6, okay. If you said Michigan's at 6, maybe I bump them down a couple of spots and put a Washington above them just because they do have a little more proven commodities coming back, if you will. I couldn't name a star. Who's that star running back for them? I would take Jonah Coleman over anybody that Michigan has to offer in its backfield. And the same thing with Denzel Boston. So Roman, take this and run with it. That Washington.
No, he had his
6.
chance. He's spoken enough today.
In the top 6. So you could make that case for me. So it's
okay. I think that's well laid out. I think that's well laid out. Yeah, that's
I think it's time we move on. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Goins is ready. He's been chomping at the bit for Indiana's win total. It's 8.5 on FanDuel. Under, please. All right, right into it. 3, 2, 1, ready, fire, aim. All right, Indiana's win total for 2025, 8.5. According to our friends at FanDuel. Goins, you're going to have to sit there and listen to all of us talk about your football team before you get to chime in, and then we will provide you the stage you so richly deserve.
Craig.
Indiana.
Yeah, I've got Craig on my side.
And Craig.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
We got 2.
He committed.
He committed. Huge 1-star offensive lineman out of the Midwest going to the Hoosiers.
Preferred walk-on.
No, it's 2025. We got rid of walk-ons because we're paying people.
Yeah, you need to get your revenue share, Craig. You are getting your money, baby.
We just had a commitment on the squad. That's a first.
That is a first. That is a first.
That's a great decision, young man. That you're going to be very happy with your decision.
Yeah, he hits the portal in less than 2 years. Okay, so Indiana 8.5. They to me are a classic pullback team. They had a beneficial schedule. I lobbied for them to get into the playoff. I'm glad they did last year. Thought they got screwed a little bit in the rankings, but alas, you've got Illinois at home. You've got to go at Oregon. You've got to go at Iowa. You've got to go at Penn State and not stumble anywhere else. Under 8.5 wins for Indiana. At my own peril, I am going to fade Kurt Signetti here. Mark, you may start things off for the gallery.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that Indiana's ready to play Illinois after that brutal gauntlet opening 3 weeks ago.
It is tough.
Old Dominion. This is embarrassing. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and I actually appreciate the Indiana State thing there. And rivalry game, I get it, but still not Division One. So yeah, we're going to find out how good Indiana really is, and really how good Illinois is. Everyone's jumping on the Illinois bandwagon. They won how many games last year?
10.
10 games. They returned Luke Altmaier, the second best quarterback in the conference returning. If Indiana can win that game, and it's a home game, they should win it, right? You know, Indiana's on their way. They can get to 9 wins. Just like for USC, Illinois is the pivot game. I think you're going to find out if Indiana can sustain what they started to build last year. It'll start at Illinois.
I love the mental darts game I get to play at trying to figure out when Mark is done talking. It's just these prolonged pauses. I'm like, oh, he's no, okay, not done. All right. All these years doing shows together, Mark, and I still haven't figured it out. Roman, 8.5, Indiana.
Iowa.
Iowa. Hey, don't sleep on Iowa. Wait, Mark, you probably slept on Minnesota and Maryland last year.
I've kind of been wavering because I think that Iowa game will be the defining game of the season. I think that Indiana, I like what Signetti's doing. I think they can beat Illinois at home. So I really think when I look at the schedule, it's going to come down to that Iowa game as to whether you're going to go under or over. You know what? I think they win that game. Jacob, I'm with you. Let's take the over.
Roman's just out here kissing rear ends all show long, just getting Craig in his corner. Now he got Goins on his side. Before you know it, Roman will be out here saying that Ohio State's going to go back-to-back. Jay, what do you make of the Hoosiers this year?
This is tough because this schedule is mapped out like it would have been a couple years ago, where you get 3 easy non-conference games, you get your Big Ten games that you should win. You already got some games in the Big Ten you're going to automatically lose. Oregon's going to beat IU, and who else do I have beating? Penn State is going to beat Indiana as well. The tricky games to me are the Illinois at Iowa, the Michigan State game, and the Wisconsin game. The lucky thing for Indiana is you're playing Oregon on the road after an off week. The tricky thing is it's on the road at Oregon. I want to go over so bad, but I have a hard time buying into Indiana doing this back-to-back seasons for the first time in school history. I understand the non-conference thing. They map it out. They did it 5 to 10 years ago, and those games were needed for Indiana to at least have a chance to be bowl eligible. You're going to blow those teams out. I don't have a good feeling that they're going to get over 8.5 right now because I live in Indiana. My mom went to IU. I've never seen it. I've never seen them go back-to-back big years, and I can't buy into them doing it right now.
Jay, when you were talking about Autzen Stadium, I really wanted to make a jab about how hard it is to win there, there
are certain things you don't talk about on this show, and that's one of them. Don't.
Yeah, for some reason,
1st,
with you, with anybody
1st.
else, fine, but with you, I bit my tongue on that one for no reason in particular.
I like that we're nitpicking games again. Just going to throw that out there.
What do you mean we're nitpicking? What?
I'm just saying we talked about the Rose Bowl a little bit earlier. Recent memory, you know.
Oh yeah, I brought this up because I said I was going to make a jab at Jay about you lost to Autzen, and I didn't do that. Okay, Craig, we'll get back to you. And Craig, you're gonna go before Jacob. The Indiana folks have to wait and listen to the slander and the tomfoolery from the crowd here. So Seiko is next.
So I mean, breaking in a transfer quarterback is still, you're going to have to get used to the chemistry. That's what I'm looking at because this schedule just does not lay out well for Indiana. Those games that are toss-ups, Illinois, Iowa, and I think to an extent because Indiana is good, but playing at Oregon obviously doesn't help them. Those games all back-to-back like that, when your QB is still going to have to get used to the system and the players around him. If those were at the back end of the schedule, I'd feel more confident to say, yes, this is a 9-3, a 10-2 team. But because this is so front loaded, where you're not going to know anything about yourself, you're not going to learn anything new against Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State. That's where those 3 opening games really don't help the Hoosiers, because you're not going to learn anything about yourself. So Illinois is that first game. Illinois is bringing back the veteran quarterback that's been there for multiple years, that's shown progression each and every single year. Then you got to pivot and go on the road to Kinnick, and then you have a bye week, but then you got to go on the road to Oregon. So there's a chance they could go on a 3-game losing streak and then settle in. But by that time, you already have 3 losses potentially under your belt, with Penn State waiting. This is an 8-4 team based on that.
Woo! Woo! Welcome to the club. Welcome to the under club. Jacob's puffing his chest out.
Proud of you.
All right.
It's not the team's fault. It's the way the schedule sets up. Those teams are in the back end. I think Indiana beats them because they would get better, but you can't help the way the schedule.
All right. Craig and Jacob have waited patiently. Craig, the floor is yours.
First of all, Jay, what year did your mom graduate? She might have been my classmate there back in the day.
You just committed.
I'm not replying to that.
All right.
Oh, jeez.
Class of 89, by the way, on my end.
Attaboy, Craig. Yes.
All right. So,
Line him up, Craig. Get him.
first of all, all right.
Jay's trying to avoid conversations about regrettable nights in Bloomington in the 80s.
All right. First of all, let's go back to the beginning. When you said, look, they're not hitting the 11, they're not going to match. They're going to have a regression from last year, but not that much, man. I'm taking the over on this. I mean, okay, we got the 3 layups. We're winning the first 3 games. Obviously, everything hinges on the Illinois game. I think we're winning at Iowa, as long as that's not at nighttime at Kinnick Stadium. I got to check the time on that one. I'll concede the loss to Oregon. They're beating Michigan State. Michigan State's a year away. UCLA, Indiana crushed them at the Rose Bowl last year, and I don't think Nico's going to do that great. I don't think he's got all the weapons over there. They'll win at Maryland. I'll concede a loss to Penn State, although I would take IU on the points because IU always plays very well at Beaver Stadium, even though they'll lose. They'll beat Wisconsin and they'll beat Purdue. So again, it comes down to that Illinois game, and right now, even without that, I think I got them at 9 wins. I know I criticized somebody last time for fuzzy math, but I think we're at 9 right there. We go beat Illinois. It could be a magical season.
All right, Goins, the time has come. You have waited 32 patient minutes to tell us why Indiana's going, 12-0?
Well, it's funny because Craig actually hit on a lot of the things that I wanted to say. I look at the schedule. That is tougher than it was a year ago. Regression is imminent. We know that. But my gut tells me 10-2 right off the rip. But that is hard to ask for. But I think 9-3 is an absolute possibility, and I think it's borderline the standard. Yes, the non-conference schedule sucks. We get it. Let's move on. We're going to be 3-0 there. I think the Illinois game, and I actually have done a crossover with our buddy Sonny at Lockdown Illini. That's a make-or-break game for both teams that could really impact what the Big Ten looks like in the postseason. I think it being at home, I think Indiana wins that game. We will split Iowa and Oregon on the road. Better chance.
Whoa! You think you're just going to walk into Iowa and win?
Yes, and look, I'm not trying to say that Indiana has the ability to go on the road to Eugene or to Penn State and say we get wins. So just chalk those up. Iowa, they can't score more than 10 points, and Indiana proves that they can. So Indiana's going to get that one done. Michigan State, UCLA, bad. Maryland, bad. Penn State, there's the loss there. Wisconsin won't have a head coach by this time, and Purdue always sucks. Isn't that right, Craig? So 9-3 at minimum for the Hoosiers. Slam the over. Put your rent on it. Put the mortgage. Put the college fund. Indiana's going over 8.5.
Put the rent on it. I think I have to give a legal disclaimer that we don't endorse betting more than you're allowed to lose.
And if you do,
gambler.
What?
Go to FanDuel.com right now.
There you have. So we've got the 2 overs. Or Mark, you were kind of in between. No, we've got the.
I just said if they get by Illinois, they can go over. That, and everybody seems to agree. That's
okay. So we're split. We're split 3-3 and 1. So that means Indiana is definitely locked into a letdown 7-5 season for Jacob. But we'll talk about it. Illinois is going to win that game in Bloomington. Just wait. Anyway, Mark Culkin, locked on USC. Jacob Goins, locked on Hoosiers. Roman Tomashoff, locked on Huskies. Jay Stevens, locked on Buckeyes. Craig Sheeman, locked on Big Ten with the Hoosiers hat. That was a new one. That was good. And Zach Seiko from Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm Spencer McLaughlin from Locked On All Over the Place. Appreciate everyone listening. We'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Hoo, hoo, hoo.